What does Nightreign tells us about what we can expect from future FromSoftware games? Hey everyone, I am the Bonfire Keeper and welcome to my channel.
Before I start the video, this video is completely speculative and based on the pattern FromSoft has shown over the years on how they have evolved their combat throughout their games and how certain mechanics which meant absolutely nothing in early games played significant roles in later titles, and what mechanic of Nightreign we can assume would carry over in a similar way in upcoming major titles. But if you have your own theories about it or any mechanic from Nightreign you would love to see in a mainstream title, let me know in the comments. I would love to read about it. And now, let's get back to the video.
The first thing I have to talk about is how much better movement is in Nightreign compared to Elden Ring or other Souls games. The wall jump and the sprint makes for such quality of life changes and make for such an easier and smoother time navigating through Nightreign than the base game. While Torrent makes up for the speed, the wall jump from Sekiro is the real game changer here. Since we have it in Sekiro and Nightreign, there's no reason to not assume that it won't be present in the next major title. And the only reason I think the wall jump mechanic was not present in the base Elden Ring was because while Sekiro came out earlier than Elden Ring, they were both being made at the same time. And the original plan was for Sekiro to be the big open world game that Elden Ring is now. But those plans were changed. And them being made at the same time makes sense why some of the Sekiro mechanics didn't carry over to Elden Ring. So since we don't know if the next major title is going to be open world or not, I can't be sure if the sprint would make it through, but I have a positive feeling that we are going to have the wall jump mechanic in it. I can't start talking about Nightreign's combat without speaking of the best character in the game first, Ironeye. Ironeye is broken, not in an extremely overpowered way, but in a way that makes him extremely viable than the rest. This is the peak bow combat has ever been in any FromSoft games, because they are always underwhelming otherwise. Bow runs in other games are good for a challenge run, but not for your first playthrough, which is a shame because a lot of people want to live their Legolas fantasy in these games. Now Ironeye makes me hopeful that we are going to see more variety in combat and more than just melee or magic options. Now I don't think bow combat in the next title is going to be one-to-one with Ironeye because he is really strong and can actually break the game. And even if we let go of that because FromSoft always did have some broken mechanics in their games, we also need to consider PvP, because an Ironeye with unlimited arrows and no need for aiming would just completely ruin PvP. And unless we are getting a game similar to Sekiro, there's no need to assume there won't be any PvP. So I am expecting more balanced bow combat system that fully work in a solo playthrough and can also work in a PvP settings, which in my opinion can be achieved through a bit more reliance on aiming. As great as the combat in the Souls series is, at its core it's always been pretty simple. You attack, block or dodge the enemy's attack, wait for your stamina to recover and then repeat. There have never been powerful abilities that you recharge and use against enemies, or any option to chain 100 combos like Devil May Cry or Monster Hunter, which you see change a little with the variety of powerful weaponers in Elden Ring. While Elden Ring is where the weaponers truly shine, we actually see the weaponers or concepts similar to weaponers to be introduced in the series as early as Dark Souls 1. While they are called unique abilities and not weapon arts, and they use durability instead of mana or FP, it is pretty obvious that was the birth of the weapon arts concept. But only very few weapons had them, like the Dragon Greatsword, Drake Sword, Golem Axe. But they are not very useful since they broke very easily if you use the unique arts a handful of times. But Dark Souls 3 improves on the concept a lot, with the weapons finally using FP and not breaking after use, making them a lot more viable. Also, Dark Souls 3 is where the weaponers start being flashier and finally evolving in their full glory in Elden Ring. Based on that, it is also valid to assume we will see the abilities of Nightfarers to evolve and be something different that is more suitable for a single player game. And since a single player game would most likely have different classes and builds, it is also not totally out of question that we might get a skill tree based on the class we choose. And I don't think there would be something like the abilities in Wukong where you only get to use them once or twice in the combat and be more similar to Neo. This one I'm not very sure about, but I'm wondering that we might see a second life or resurrection mechanic similar to Sekiro or the solo runs of Nightreign, where we get a second chance after dying. They both serve different purposes in both Sekiro and Nightreign solo runs, but it would not be unexpected because now that FromSoft has a wider audience after Elden Ring, they might add it to make it more accessible. Before Nightreign, co-op was never very good in the Souls series. Starting a co-op file in Elden Ring and exploring the whole game with a friend rather than summoning them separately for every area would have been a lot more fun. And that's why when the modding community came out with the seamless co-op mod, it was such a massive hit. Unfortunately, that being a mod, it was only limited to PC and console players couldn't get the benefit. But now FromSoft has proven with Nightreign that they can indeed make a great co-op. While yes, there are still technical issues in Nightreign and the servers are not always great, it has always been a problem with multiplayer in their games. But we can all look past a little problem here and there if we get an official working co-op in the next major title, which would be a very welcoming upgrade. Although I'm sure that even if we get an official co-op mode, looking at their track records, there's no way it's going to be cross-platform.
Recently, there was a leak that FromSoft is already working on their next major title, not including Last Blood. And as game developers always codename their project while they are still in development, this one was codenamed FMC. Now this leak was made by the same people who also leaked the codename for Elden Ring, which was GR or Great Rune. Now while they don't know what FMC is an abbreviation of, according to them it's in very advanced stage of development and could be playable as early as 2027. Now with these experimental titles like Nightreign or Last Blood introducing fresh and fun mechanics to the series, it makes me really excited to see how many of them will cross over to the new title. But that will be it for me today. If you enjoyed hearing about my predictions, consider liking the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you and I will see you next time.